You just checked your bank account and honestly, you felt kind of disappointed. You're making decent money, maybe $50,000 or $60,000 or even $70,000 a year. But when you look at that number sitting there in your checking account, it just doesn't feel like wealth. It feels like you're barely getting by. You scroll through social media and everyone seems to be buying houses, going on vacations, driving new cars, and you're sitting there thinking you're falling behind. But here's the thing, and I mean this, you might actually be significantly wealthier than the people you're comparing yourself to. You just have no idea how to measure it. My name is Tom, and I spend way too much time thinking about what actual wealth really means. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right with money, but still feels broke, or if you constantly compare your financial situation to others and come up short, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because what I'm about to share with you is going to completely change how you think about your financial position. Look, we've been taught to measure wealth all wrong. We look at income, we look at account balances, we look at the car someone drives or the house they live in. But these are terrible, and I mean absolutely terrible, indicators of actual financial health. A study from the Federal Reserve in 2023 found that 40% of Americans making over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. Think about that for a second. Six-figure income earners who can't cover an unexpected $1,000 expense without going into debt. Meanwhile, there are people making $45,000 a year who have 6 months of expenses saved and are on track to retire comfortably. So what's the difference? It's not the income, it's the daily choices. The small, seemingly insignificant decisions you make every single day about money. And this is where it gets really interesting, because these choices compound in ways that most people completely fail to understand. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers, because the math here is going to blow your mind. Let's say you make one small change, just one. You decide to pack your lunch instead of buying it 4 days a week. The average American spends about $12 on lunch when they buy it. A packed lunch costs maybe $3 in ingredients. That's a $9 difference. Times 4 days a week, that's $36 a week. Multiply that by 52 weeks, and you're looking at $1,872 a year. Now, most people hear that number and think, okay, cool, an extra $1,872. That's nice. Maybe a vacation. But here's what most people don't realize. If you take that $1,872 and invest it every single year in a simple index fund averaging 8% annual returns, which is below the historical average of the S&P 500, in 30 years you have $212,589. From packing your lunch, let me say that again. Packing your lunch 4 days a week for 30 years creates a nest egg of over $200,000. That's the down payment on a house. That's a kid's college education. That's early retirement money from a sandwich. But you might be thinking, okay, Tom, that's great in theory, but 30 years is a long time. And what about right now? Fair question. Let's talk about what these choices do for you immediately, not just in some distant future. This is the first sign you're richer than you think. If you have even one automatic system in place where money gets saved or invested before you can spend it, you're wealthier than 69% of Americans. A survey by Bankrate in 2023 found that only 31% of Americans have a savings account that receives automatic deposits. 69% are saving sporadically or not at all. Here's the psychology behind this. We are terrible, and I mean absolutely terrible, at making good decisions with money that's sitting in our checking account. It's called present bias. Our brains are wired to value immediate rewards over future benefits. When you see $500 in your checking account, your brain starts generating reasons why you deserve to spend it. You've been working hard. You haven't bought anything fun in a while. That new gadget would really make your life easier. But when that $500 gets automatically transferred to a savings account or a 401k or an investment account, before you even see it, before you even have a chance to think about it, something magical happens. You adjust. You live on what's left, and that $500 starts working for you instead of disappearing into random purchases you won't remember in 3 months. Let me give you a real example from my own life. I started my career making $38,000 a year. After taxes and deductions, I was taking home about $2,300 a month. I set up an automatic transfer of $150 every month into a Roth IRA. That's it, $150. I barely noticed it after the first month. I adjusted my spending. I bought slightly less expensive coffee. I stayed in one weekend a month instead of going out. Tiny adjustments that felt like nothing. I did this for 7 years before I got a significant raise. That $150 a month invested in low-cost index funds turned into $18,400. But because of compound growth and market returns, it was actually worth $23,700 by year 7. I was 29 years old with almost $24,000 invested, and I was still making less than $50,000 a year at that point. That's sign number 2. You're richer than you think. If you have any money, and I mean any amount at all, invested in a retirement account, even if it's just $2,000 or $5,000, you're building real wealth. And here's the part that's going to frustrate you. Most people don't start investing until their 30s or 40s because they think they need a lot of money to begin. They're waiting until they feel rich enough to invest. But investing is what makes you rich. It's not the result of being rich. It's the cause. A 25-year-old who invests $200 a month until retirement will have more money at age 65 than a 35-year-old who invests $600 a month starting 10 years later. Even though the 35-year-old contributes way more total money, that's the power of time and compound growth. The early starter invests $72,000 over 30 years and ends up with around $559,000. The late starter invests $108,000 over 20 years and ends up with about $330,000. The person who started earlier and invested less money ends up with $229,000 more. This is where the psychology gets really important. We think about wealth wrong. We think it's about big moments, the big promotion, the big bonus, the big inheritance. But actual wealth, the kind that lasts and grows and provides security, comes from small, consistent actions repeated over long periods of time. Sign number 3, you're richer than you think. If you're avoiding new debt, even if you still have some old debt you're working on, you're doing better than most people realize. Consumer debt in America hit $4.7 trillion in 2023. Credit card debt alone was over $1 trillion. The average credit card interest rate is over 20% right now. Let me show you what that means in real terms. If you have $5,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest, and you're making minimum payments of $150 a month, it will take you 4 years and 9 months to pay it off, and you'll pay $3,400 in interest. You're paying $8,400 total for $5,000 worth of stuff you already bought and probably don't even have anymore. Now flip that around. If you're not adding new debt, even if you're still paying off old debt, you've stopped the bleeding. And if you're putting that $150 a month into an investment account instead of toward a credit card company, in that same 4 years and 9 months, you'll have around $9,800. That's a $17,000 swing from one decision. The decision to stop borrowing. Here's what most people don't realize about debt. It's not just the money you pay. It's the opportunity cost. Every dollar that goes to interest is a dollar that can't compound and grow for you. It's a dollar that works for the bank instead of working for you. When you stop taking on new debt, you're not just avoiding interest payments. You're reclaiming your ability to build wealth. Now you might be thinking, okay, Tom, but what if I'm not perfect? What if I slip up sometimes? What if I'm trying to do the right things, but I still make mistakes? That brings me to sign number 4. You're richer than you think. If you're thinking about your financial decisions at all, if you're watching this video right now, you're already in the top half of financial awareness. A study by the FINRA Investor Education Foundation found that only 57% of Americans could answer 4 out of 5 basic financial literacy questions correctly. Questions like understanding compound interest, understanding inflation, understanding risk diversification. More than 40% of Americans don't understand these fundamental concepts. If you understand that saving money consistently matters, that compound interest works in your favor, that avoiding high interest debt is crucial, you have a knowledge advantage that most people don't have. But knowledge alone isn't enough. And this is where I get a little frustrated with the personal finance industry. We throw information at people and expect it to change behavior. But behavior change doesn't come from information. It comes from systems and psychology. Sign number 5, you're richer than you think. And this one is huge. If you've ever said no to a purchase because you're saving for something specific, you have developed delayed gratification, which is one of the strongest predictors of financial success. There was a famous study done at Stanford called the marshmallow experiment. Researchers gave kids a choice: eat 1 marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The kids who could wait, who could delay gratification, went on to have better life outcomes across the board. Better grades, better careers, better financial situations. Every time you skip a purchase because you're saving for something bigger, you're exercising that same muscle. You're training your brain to value future rewards over immediate pleasures. And here's the thing, it gets easier with practice. The first time you say no to something you want, it feels terrible. It feels like deprivation. But the 10th time, the 20th time, it starts to feel like power, like control, like you're making an active choice about your future instead of passively responding to marketing and impulses. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you want a new car, not need, want. Your current car works fine, but you want something newer, something nicer. The average new car payment in America right now is around $736 a month for 5 years. That's a total of $44,160. But let's say you decide to drive your current car for 3 more years and invest that $736 a month instead. In 3 years, you'll have over $29,000, enough to buy a decent used car in cash and still have money left over. Or you keep investing it, and in 10 years, that money becomes $134,000. In 20 years, it's $403,000. One decision: keep the car you have and invest the payment you're not making. $400,000 over 20 years. That's not wealth from a high income. That's wealth from one smart choice, repeated consistently. Sign number 6, you're richer than you think. If you have a budget, or even just a general awareness of where your money goes each month, you have financial control that most people lack. A study by US Bank found that only 41% of Americans use a budget. 59% are just guessing. They have a vague sense of their income and their bills, but no real tracking of discretionary spending. Here's why this matters more than you think. When you don't track spending, you leak money. $5 here, $20 there, $40 on something you barely remember buying. The average American spends over $1,000 a year on subscriptions, according to a survey by C&R Research. And most people underestimate how much they're spending by over 50%. They think they're spending $25 or $30 a month on subscriptions when they're actually spending closer to $60 or $70. A budget doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a detailed spreadsheet with 17 categories. It can be simple. How much do I make? How much am I saving or investing? How much are my fixed expenses? What's left for everything else? That's it. That basic awareness is enough to catch the leaks. I know someone who went through their bank statements and found they were paying for 3 streaming services they never used, a gym membership they hadn't visited in 8 months, and a meal kit subscription they kept forgetting to skip. $67 a month in completely wasted spending. They canceled it all, set up an automatic transfer of $75 a month to an investment account, and didn't notice any change in their lifestyle. But over 20 years, that $75 a month becomes $41,000. This is the thing about wealth building that nobody talks about. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. It's not a hot stock tip or a real estate hack or a side hustle that makes you rich overnight. It's paying attention. It's small adjustments. It's consistency over time. Sign number 7, you're richer than you think. And this is a big one that people overlook completely. If you have any tangible skills that could generate income outside your main job, you have financial security that doesn't show up in your bank account. This isn't about starting a side hustle necessarily, although that's great if you want to. This is about optionality. Let's say you're a graphic designer, or how to fix cars, or you're good at writing, or you can code, or you're skilled at organizing and project management. These skills represent dormant income potential. If you lost your job tomorrow, you could generate some income while you look for your next position. That's worth something real, even if you never use it. I have a friend who's an accountant. Full-time job, normal salary. But she also knows she could pick up tax preparation work every January through April if she needed extra money. She's never done it. She doesn't need to. But knowing she has that option gives her confidence to take risks in her career, to negotiate harder for raises, to walk away from bad situations. That psychological security is a form of wealth. Compare that to someone making the same salary, but with no portable skills, no options outside their current employer. Who's really in a better financial position? The person with the same salary but more options is wealthier, even if their bank account shows the same number. Sign number 8, you're richer than you think. If you've ever increased your income and not proportionally increased your spending, you've discovered the secret that actually builds wealth. This is called avoiding lifestyle inflation. And it's the difference between people who make a lot of money and people who build a lot of wealth. Here's how it usually goes. You get a raise. Let's say $3,000 a year, $250 a month after taxes. Your brain immediately starts spending it. Maybe you upgrade your apartment. Maybe you finance a newer car. Maybe you start eating out more often. Within 3 months, that extra $250 is gone, absorbed into your new normal. You don't feel any richer. You're just spending more. But here's the alternative. You get that $3,000 raise, you take half of it, $125 a month, and automatically invest it. You use the other half to improve your lifestyle moderately. Now you feel a little bit richer because you're spending more on things you enjoy, but you're also actually becoming richer because you're investing more. Do this every time you get a raise, and the math gets wild. Let's say you start at $45,000 a year and get a 3% raise annually, which is roughly inflation. If you invest half of each raise, by year 20, you're investing over $400 a month, and you've accumulated over $130,000. You didn't drastically cut your lifestyle. You just didn't inflate it as fast as your income grew. This is where psychology and math intersect in the most powerful way. Humans adapt to their circumstances incredibly quickly. It's called hedonic adaptation. That new car feels amazing for about 3 months, then it's just your car. That bigger apartment feels luxurious for about 6 months, then it's just where you live. The pleasure fades, but the cost remains. When you understand this about yourself, when you really internalize that the happiness from increased spending is temporary, but the security from increased saving is permanent, you make different choices. You still upgrade your life, but you do it slowly and intentionally, and you capture most of your income growth for wealth building instead of spending it all. Sign number 9, you're richer than you think, and this is the most important one. If you're focused on building assets instead of buying liabilities, even in small ways, you're on a completely different financial path than most people. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket or increases in value. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket or decreases in value. Your 401k is an asset. Your investment account is an asset. If you own a house that's appreciating, that's an asset, although the mortgage is a liability. Your skills and education are assets. Your car, unless you use it to generate income, is a liability. It decreases in value and costs money to maintain. Your furniture is a liability. Your clothes are liabilities. Most of the stuff we buy are liabilities disguised as assets. Here's what most people don't realize. Rich people spend most of their money on assets and a small amount on liabilities. Poor and middle-class people spend most of their money on liabilities and a small amount on assets. It's that simple and that brutal. If you're putting even 10% of your income into assets, you're doing better than most. If you're putting 15 or 20%, you're on track to be genuinely wealthy within 20 to 30 years, regardless of your current income level. Because assets compound, they grow, they generate more assets. Liabilities just sit there, depreciating and costing you money. Let me show you what this looks like over a lifetime. Person A makes $60,000 a year and spends $55,000 saving and investing $5,000 annually. Person B makes $90,000 a year and spends $87,000 saving and investing $3,000 annually. Person B makes 50% more money, but person A is saving 67% more. In 30 years, person A has over $600,000 invested. Person B has about $360,000. Person A, making less money their entire career, ends up with $240,000 more wealth. That's the power of the savings rate. It's not what you make, it's what you keep and invest. Now let's talk about what to actually do with this information, because understanding you're richer than you think is only useful if it changes your behavior. Here's the thing, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to cut out every small pleasure. You don't need to live like a monk and eat rice and beans for 10 years. That's miserable and unsustainable. What you need is a system that makes good financial decisions automatic and easy. Start with one thing, just one. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a savings or investment account on the day you get paid. Start small if you need to, $50, $100, whatever feels doable. The amount matters less than the consistency and the automation. Do this for 3 months. You'll adjust, I promise. You'll find the money you needed somewhere else in your budget. You'll make tiny cuts that don't hurt. And after 3 months, increase it by $25. Then 3 months later, increase it again. Within a year, you'll be saving significantly more than you thought possible. And you won't feel deprived because the changes were gradual. Next, tackle one source of money leakage. Go through your bank and credit card statements from the last 3 months. Find one recurring expense that's not bringing you real value. Cancel it. Redirect that exact amount to your automatic savings. You won't miss it because you weren't really using it anyway, but now it's working for you. Third, and this is crucial, start tracking your net worth monthly. Not your income, not your account balance, your net worth. Add up everything you own that has value, retirement accounts, savings, investment accounts, home equity if you own. Subtract everything you owe, credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgage. The number you get is your net worth. Write it down. Every month, calculate it again. You want to see that number go up. Not because you got a raise, not because the market had a good month, although that helps, but because you're consistently spending less than you make and directing the difference toward assets. When you focus on net worth instead of income, everything changes. You stop caring as much about looking rich and start caring about being rich. You make different choices. You feel progress even in months where your income doesn't change because you see your net worth climbing. Here's a real-world example of how this plays out. I know 2 people who graduated college the same year with similar degrees. Person 1 got a job making $52,000. Person 2 got a job making $68,000. Person 2 felt richer, bought a new car, got a nice apartment, went on vacations, posted it all on social media. Person 1 kept their old car, lived with roommates, packed lunches, and automatically invested 15% of their income. 10 years later, person 1 has a net worth of about $190,000. Person 2 has a net worth of about $30,000. Person 2 still makes more money, now about $85,000 to person 1's $68,000. But person 1 is over $160,000 wealthier. That's the entire point. Your daily choices compound into massive differences over time. The person making less money is building more wealth because they understand something fundamental. Wealth isn't what you earn. It's what you keep, invest, and let grow. Let me address something you might be thinking right now. Tom, this sounds great, but I have real expenses. I have student loans. I have rent in an expensive city. I have kids. I have medical bills. I can't just save and invest like it's easy. You're absolutely right. It's not easy. Nobody said it was easy. But here's what I need you to understand. The principles don't change based on your circumstances. They just scale. If you can't save 15% right now, save 5%. If you can't save 5%, save 2%. If you can't save 2%, save $20 a month. The amount is less important than establishing the habit and the system. Because here's what happens. You save $20 a month for 6 months. You prove to yourself you can do it. You get a small raise or a tax refund, or you cut one expense and you bump it to $40 a month, then $60, then $100. 5 years from now, you're saving amounts you can't imagine saving today. Not because your circumstances radically changed, but because you built the muscle gradually. You adapted, you learned, you got better at finding efficiency in your budget. I started investing $150 a month, making $38,000 a year. I'm now investing over $2,000 a month. My income went up, yes, but more importantly, I got better at this. I learned where my money was going. I cut things that didn't matter. I negotiated bills. I avoided lifestyle inflation. I built systems that made good choices automatic. And here's the beautiful part. The money I invested 5 years ago has grown significantly. It's working for me now, generating returns, compounding. The hardest money to invest is the first $10,000 because you're starting from zero and the growth feels slow. But once you have 10,000 invested, then 20,000, then 50,000, the compound growth starts doing heavy lifting. At 8% annual returns, $10,000 grows by $800 in a year. That's not much, but $100,000 grows by $8,000 in a year. And $500,000 grows by $40,000 a year. You're still putting in the same effort, the same consistency, but the results are exponentially larger because your base is bigger. This is why starting now, today, with whatever you can manage, is so critical. Every month you delay is a month you lose to compound growth. Every year you wait to start investing is a year that money could have been working for you, growing, multiplying. Think about it this way. Would you rather plant a tree today that takes 20 years to mature, or wait 10 years and then plant a tree that still takes 20 years? Either way, you're waiting for the tree, but if you plant it today, you get the tree in 20 years. If you wait, you get it in 30 years. Those 10 extra years matter. In investing, those 10 years could be the difference between retiring comfortably and working into your 70s. Let's go deeper into the psychology here, because this is what really determines success. Most people fail at building wealth not because they don't know what to do, they fail because they don't address the emotional and psychological barriers. You know you should save money. You know you should invest. You know you should avoid debt. But knowing and doing are completely different things. The biggest psychological barrier is the feeling that small actions don't matter. You look at saving $50 a month and think, what's the point? That's not going to make me rich. And you're right. $50 a month for 1 month won't make you rich. But $50 a month for 30 years becomes $67,000. That's life-changing money. That's retirement money. That's financial security. We're wired to discount future rewards. Our brains don't emotionally connect to our future selves. When you save money today, you're giving money to a person you'll become in 20 or 30 years. But that person feels abstract. They don't feel real. So you spend the money on your current self instead, because your current self is very real and wants things right now. The way to overcome this is to make your future self feel real. Visualize specifically what you want your life to look like in 20 years. Where do you want to live? What do you want to be doing? Do you want to be working? Or do you want the option to not work? Do you want to travel? Do you want to help your kids? Do you want to feel secure and calm about money instead of stressed and anxious? Write it down. Make it concrete. Then connect your daily actions to that vision. Every time you transfer money to savings, you're not just moving numbers around. You're buying a piece of that future. You're making it more real, more possible. Another psychological barrier is comparison. You see people on social media who look richer than you. They're buying houses, going on trips, wearing expensive clothes, and you feel behind. You feel like you're failing. But here's what you don't see. You don't see their debt. You don't see their stress. You don't see their empty retirement accounts. A study by Credit Karma found that 39% of millennials have gone into debt to keep up with their peers. They spent money they didn't have to look like they had money. That's not wealth. That's a performance. It's financial theater, and it's incredibly dangerous. Real wealth is quiet. It's boring. It's a retirement account that grows steadily. It's a savings account that covers emergencies. It's a lack of stress about money. None of that shows up on Instagram. Nobody posts a screenshot of their 401k balance or their emergency fund. But those are the things that actually matter. When you feel the urge to compare yourself to others, remember this. You're comparing your internal reality, which includes all your doubts and fears and struggles, to their external performance, which is carefully curated to look perfect. It's a rigged game. You'll always lose. The only comparison that matters is you today versus you last year. Are you better off financially than you were 12 months ago? If yes, you're winning. Let me tell you about the power of small percentages, because this is where the math gets really exciting. If you can increase your savings rate by just 1% of your income each year, the long-term impact is massive. Let's say you make $50,000 and you're currently saving 5%, which is $2,500 a year. If you increase your savings rate by 1% each year, in year 2, you're saving 6%, which is $3,000. Year 3, 7%, $3,500. By year 10, you're saving 14%, $7,000 a year. Over those 10 years, you've invested a total of about $50,000. At 8% returns, that's worth around $67,000 by year 10. But here's where it gets wild. If you keep that 14% savings rate for the next 20 years, you'll accumulate an additional $380,000. Your total net worth from this one gradual change will be around $450,000. From increasing your savings rate 1% per year for 10 years, then holding it. You didn't have to make a massive sacrifice all at once. You didn't have to cut your lifestyle in half. You just gradually, slowly increase the percentage of income you saved. 1% a year is barely noticeable. It's the cost of one meal out per month. It's one subscription, it's one impulse purchase. But over time, it creates generational wealth. This is the secret that rich people understand and most people don't. Wealth building is a rate of change game, not an absolute numbers game. It's not about having a lot of money right now. It's about consistently increasing the gap between what you earn and what you spend, and investing that gap. Someone making $40,000 who saves 20% is building wealth faster than someone making $100,000 who saves 5%. The $40,000 earner is investing $8,000 a year. The $100,000 earner is investing $5,000 a year. The person making less money will be wealthier in 20 years because their rate of wealth accumulation is higher. Here's another thing most people get wrong. They think investing is complicated. They think you need to understand stocks and bonds and asset allocation and rebalancing and all this complex stuff. And yeah, if you want to optimize everything perfectly, there's complexity. But the basics are incredibly simple. Open a retirement account. If your employer offers a 401k, especially if they match contributions, use it. That match is free money. If they match up to 3% and you're not contributing 3%, you're literally leaving money on the table. That's the best return you'll ever get. 100% instant return. If you don't have access to a 401k, open a Roth IRA. You can contribute up to $6,500 a year as of 2023, or $7,500 if you're over 50. Put it in a target date retirement fund, or a simple index fund like an S&P 500 fund. That's it, you're done, you're invested. You don't need to pick individual stocks, you don't need to time the market, you don't need to read financial news every day. Just consistently add money and let time do the work. The S&P 500 has averaged about 10% annual returns over the last 50 years. Some years it's up 30%, some years it's down 20%. But over long periods, it goes up. If you invest $300 a month in an S&P 500 index fund and just leave it alone for 30 years, you'll have around $670,000. That's assuming the historical average return. You'll have contributed $108,000 of your own money. The other $562,000 is growth. That's the power of the market working for you. Now let's talk about the single biggest wealth killer. And it's not what you think. It's not buying coffee. It's not avocado toast. Those things are distractions. The real wealth killer is financing depreciating assets, cars specifically. The average new car payment is $736 a month for 72 months. That's $52,992 total. And the second you drive that car off the lot, it's worth 15 to 20% less. In 5 years, it's worth maybe half what you paid. You're spending $53,000 on something that will be worth maybe $25,000 at best when you're done paying for it. Compare that to buying a 3-year-old used car for $20,000 in cash or financing it for 2 years maximum. You're driving a perfectly good car and you're saving hundreds of dollars per month. Invest that difference, and in 10 years, you have an extra $100,000. The person with the new car has a 10-year-old car worth almost nothing. You have a 10-year-old car worth almost nothing plus $100,000 in investments. This is what I mean when I say daily choices create massive outcomes. The choice between new and used, between financing for 6 years versus paying cash or financing for 2 years, that one choice is worth $100,000 over a decade. I get frustrated when I see people making good money, working hard, doing everything society tells them to do, and still struggling financially because they're making these massive, unforced errors. They're buying new cars they can't afford. They're carrying credit card debt at 20% interest. They're not contributing to retirement accounts. They're letting their money sit in checking accounts, earning 0 interest instead of putting it to work. These aren't bad people. They're not stupid. They just don't understand the math. They don't see the long-term impact of these choices. And the financial industry doesn't help because there's more money in selling you debt and products than there is in teaching you to build wealth slowly and steadily. So let me give you the clearest, simplest action plan possible. If you do these 5 things, you'll be wealthier than 80% of Americans within 20 years. I'm not exaggerating. These 5 things are that powerful. 1, automate your savings. Set up automatic transfers to a savings and investment account on payday. Start with whatever you can, but start. Increase it by 1% of your income every year. 2, contribute to retirement accounts. 4, owe 1K up to the match at minimum, more if you can. Roth IRA if you're eligible. Invest in simple index funds. Don't overthink it. 3, avoid financing depreciating assets. Don't buy new cars. Don't finance furniture or electronics. If you can't buy it in cash or pay it off in less than a year, you can't afford it. The only acceptable debt is a mortgage, student loans if they lead to higher income, and maybe a used car loan for 2 years max if you absolutely need a car and don't have cash. 4, track your net worth monthly. Write it down, watch it grow, let that progress motivate you. 5, increase your skills and income potential. Read, learn, take courses, build expertise. Your ability to earn is your biggest asset. Invest in it. That's it. 5 things. None of them are complicated. None of them require genius or luck. They just require consistency and discipline over time. Here's what's going to happen if you do this. In year 1, you'll save maybe $3,000 to $5,000. It won't feel like much. You'll be tempted to quit because the progress seems slow. Don't. Keep going. In year 3, you'll have $15,000 to $20,000 invested. You'll start to see growth from compound returns. It'll feel more real. In year 5, you'll have $30,000 to $50,000. This is when it gets exciting because the growth starts accelerating. In year 10, you'll have over $100,000. You'll feel wealthy for the first time. You'll have options, security, confidence. In year 20, you'll have $300,000 to $500,000 depending on your contribution amounts and returns. You'll be financially independent or very close to it. In year 30, you'll have between $700,000 and over $1 million. You can retire comfortably. You've won the game. All from making less than 6 figures a year. All from consistent automated investing. All from avoiding major financial mistakes. All from daily choices compounded over time. This is what being richer than you think really means. It doesn't mean you have a lot of money in your checking account right now. It means you have systems, knowledge, habits, and time on your side. It means you're on a path that leads to real wealth, even if you can't see it yet. Most people are on a path to nowhere financially. They're spending everything they make, sometimes more. They're accumulating liabilities and debt. They're hoping something will change, some windfall will save them, but they're not building anything real. If you're saving anything, investing anything, learning anything about money, you're on a different path. You're climbing a mountain that most people don't even know exists. And yeah, you're at the bottom right now. You can't see the top. The progress feels slow, but you're climbing. Every month, every contribution, every good decision, you're higher than you were before. 10 years from now, you'll look down and realize how far you've come. You'll see people who make more money than you struggling while you're secure. You'll understand that you were richer than you thought all along because you had something more valuable than money. You had time, discipline, and the knowledge to use them correctly. So here's my challenge to you. Before this video ends, take one action. Just one. Open a retirement account if you don't have one. Set up an automatic transfer to savings if you don't have one. Go through your subscriptions and cancel one you're not using. Calculate your net worth for the first time. One action, right now. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. You'll watch this video, feel motivated, agree with everything I said, and then do nothing, and nothing will change. Or you'll take one action, one small step, and that step will lead to another and another. And in 5 years, you'll look back at this moment as the turning point. The day you stopped just thinking about money and started building wealth. You're richer than you think. Not because of what's in your bank account, but because you have the tools, the knowledge, and the time to build something real. Now go use them.